The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. WealthBuilders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Welcome to episode 154 of Wealth Talk. My name's Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, and I'm joined today by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hi, Kevin.
Buenos dias, Cristiano.
Straight back from holiday. How was it?
It was great. I went to, I like various places I've never been before. So I went to the gastronomy capital of Spain.
Okay. Where might that be?
Sanlúcar de Barrameda. I was practicing my Spanish. Wasn't too great, I have to admit. But we got a Spanish guest today.
Very, very on point and on theme. We do indeed. So yes, today we will be chatting with Raquel Queral. And Raquel is the Green Landlady. So she is all about sustainability, certainly within property. So we're going to be talking about that and kind of have a green theme because, obviously that's really important. And more and more so as we move forward now into the future, everything is obviously more sustainable and carbon neutral. So, yeah, absolutely. Raquel's got
whether you're into property or not, whether you're an investor, whether your pillar is pension, whether you're in business, whatever you're doing, whether you're creating joint ventures or even IP, there's a whole theme now around green, sustainability, environmentally friendly, all of those things, which are just watchwords in the way the world is going. So it's an epochal change. It's fundamental change. So I think we need to get with it. I think it's the first one. Have we focused on that area?
I think so, yeah.
I think maybe we could get a little theme going.
Yeah. We're both driving our electric cars, so we're doing our bit.
Yes, mine's called EV. Have you named yours yet?
I haven't.
No, he's got a Tesla.
Tony the Tesla, maybe. Anyway, quick reminder, because last week's episode was all about the WealthBuilders self-study program, the course that we've now released. It's if you're listening to this episode around the time of release, we're actually running an offer, a discount. So that's only valid for a few days. So do head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/self-study, all one word, and go and check it out. It's our full academy program, just without coaching. So it's self-guided. It's an opportunity to learn all of the lessons that we've talked about on the podcast. And still get that support from the community and from, lots and lots of different areas, but without that one-to-one coaching.
Yeah, look, I want to say something about that, Chris, because I think there are a couple of aspects that were concerning me about it. One was, I believe in the power of good guidance, where someone who has knowledge can help you get to a different place faster, safer, more enjoyably. Now, give you a parallel. I had a wonderful experience in Spain and learning more about, there's a celebration of what's known as manzanilla, which is a Spanish sherry. Now, I didn't realize how complex Spanish sherry was until I sought the advice of a guide who not just took us on a tour around all the different ways of doing it, talked to us about how all the barrels moved, how the different fortifications of sherry, the different tastings, and naturally I had a tasting or two. Yes, it would be. But it's so much more enjoyable when somebody knows what they're doing, guides you through it.
Yeah.
I could have read a book.
Yeah.
And, I could have just got a guidebook, but I didn't, and I don't like to do it that way. I like proper guidance. So I believe in the power of guidance. I think results are better for all sorts of reasons. However, we know money is precious. The program we have is accessible, but we wanted to make it more accessible so more people gave it a go, so they could follow our roadmap, the step-by-step process anybody could take to create financial independence for themselves. We didn't want money to get in the way. So we thought if we give them a good taster, some might then go on and discover, yes, I would like to be guided, but I've got enough to get me going. Others will guide themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as they realize there isn't any coaching, but there is good support from the community and a whole range of other things like access to me and you in groups as opposed to individually and so forth.
Definitely. And, we have an excellent team of wealth coaches and we know, as you say, that results are always better when you've got a guide. Yeah. However, for those reasons, we've launched the self-study program this week. So yeah, wealthbuilders.co.uk/self-study. Go there, check it out, see if that's something you'd like to join us on. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you get access to both of us every monthly call.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay then. So back onto today's episode, and probably let's just get into the conversation with Raquel, and then we'll come back and debrief afterwards.
Why don't we do that?
Raquel, welcome to Wealth Talk today. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for having me on.
Great to have you on, Raquel. And for those that don't know you, you're known as the Green Landlady, and this is because of your passion for sustainability in property, but also looking after the people, looking after the planet. And we're going to talk about all the different ways that those things can come together today. But I know that for the past 10 years, Raquel, you've raised over £12 million of investment money and made £1.2 million of profit for your investors and housed over 1,000 individuals. So firstly, congratulations for that. It'd be really interesting to find out kind of where that all began. And with your property company, RQT, you aspire to lead the way into sustainable private rental accommodation. So your vision is all about inspiring every landlord to become more sustainable and earning yourself, as I said, the name, the Green Landlady. So let's talk about sustainability then, Raquel, and why are you so passionate about this?
Well, I see a world, Christian, where absolutely every single person in the world has access to a sustainable and healthy house, regardless of how much their income is. There is a misconception that sustainability can only be done at a higher end level, but actually I truly believe, and this is what my mission is, just to lead that transition, because it is something that we are all entitled to have. And once you've lived in a sustainable home, you don't want to go back. It's like going back to the pre-internet days. Who would want to do that?
Yeah. So just to keep things super simple for someone perhaps who's just really not quite sure what is a sustainable home, what are some of the most common things that you're talking about here?
A sustainable home is not just about putting gadgets. I mean, sustainability talks always about a circular economy where there's less waste, there's less waste on the build, where they are actually building materials that are actually more recyclables. It's about looking as to how the house actually look, how the house breathe, just to make it as natural as possible, really. That's what we're talking about, and something that can be there for years and years on end. So this is what we are talking. When we're talking about sustainability, we're talking a healthier house with a lot of ventilation, with a lot of insulation, so it's warm, so you don't waste your money on actually heating up the environment.
Yeah. So there's really many different aspects at play here, I suppose. It's not just, the comfort of living, right? So just having a more enjoyable space to live in. It's healthier. Obviously, the government, we know, are bringing in some regulations. So it's something that we're all going to be having to make changes to, especially any landlords now. What are some of those changes that are upcoming, Raquel?
Well, the government is actually planning from 2025, no new homes. The intention is that no new homes are actually going to be able to have gas boilers in, for instance. And from 2028, people will not be able to retrofit those gas boilers into homes. So that means that if you're a landlord, and you have to change, and your boiler just breaks down in 2028, what are you going to do? It's going to cost you a fortune to just find a substitute or just do something. So the message here is don't bury your head on the sand. Just act now. Just have a plan in place, and then incorporate the sustainability into your homes little by little. You don't have to spend all the money all up front. You can just do little by little and upgrade your houses at a slower pace in order to be able to be ready for when the regulations come, because they are coming. Winter is coming. Yeah. Whether you like Games of Thrones or not, it is coming.
Yeah. So obviously on Wealth Talk today, so we're going to be looking at, any investors, any buy-to-let property people listening now, some of the things that they can be starting to make changes to, because in the long term, as you said, it actually will save them money and make them money. So whilst it might be a little bit of upfront cost, they have to be thinking longer term here, right?
That's correct. Yes. We're looking at what people don't realize is that they only see, when they're looking at sustainability in properties, they're looking at how much it costs. They are not looking at the long-term picture of how much they are saving. Just for an argument's sake, If you were to install an air source heat pump now, okay, yes, it could cost a lot of money, but you have grants out there to actually help you with these straight away and to decarbonize your heating. Then what happened onto that is that you have annual savings. An air source heat pump does not need an annual certificate, which you are saving already £85 on. It doesn't have servicing. It doesn't normally break down. I mean, if you were to compare it, how many times have you actually serviced your fridge?
Yep, rarely.
So this is what we're talking about. The thing is, you're installing these new decarbonization efficiency measures, and that you just kind of like, it's pretty much like you install them and then just forget about it. So there's loads of things that go along with it that actually are going to disappear. There is a lot of trades that are going to have to change and amend to what's going to happen. What's the new role going to look like?
Yeah. So perhaps in a minute, Raquel, we can go through a bit of a checklist. What are some of the things that people can start to go through now, in addition to a couple of things you've mentioned already? But where did this all really begin? How did you begin to learn about this for yourself? I know we said at the beginning there you've been investing for over 10 years, but were you on the sustainability tip right from the beginning, or is this something that's kind of come up more recently for you?
No, I guess I was a very impressionable 18 years old when I actually went to Germany and discovered recycling. I worked for this hotel trying to learn. My degree is in tourism and foreign languages. So I just went to learn how to manage a hotel. And I ended up being faced with this thing called recycling, and then just being and exposed to loads of technologies. I love traveling, and therefore over the years, I've just tried to understand where everything was going to be made, how things were made, how it was helping the environment. So for me, I was always using it, and always, my mom always taught me, when you do things, you do it to the best of your ability. So that's, if I already knew that solar panels were good, then obviously why not include them on my bills? So I've always included them, but my passion for property actually just stemmed off becoming homeless. Which is something that I've never spoken about, and it's only recently that I've started to just share that I ended up on the street at the age of 23. And what happened is that I had no fault of my own. I had rented out a room in a shared accommodation, and I was thinking that my key person was paying the landlords, what it happened to be is that no, that person just kept the money. So because of that, my landlord evicted us. He didn't want to listen to anything. So he evicted us completely and left us on the street. So because of that, then obviously I realized, well, this is wrong. First of all, you need to listen to your tenants. You can't just put them on the street for no reason. Second of all, we need to eradicate all of these systems. This system is just wrong. So that's when I just promised that when I had my own property empire, as I call it, then I wanted to make sure that I put tenants at the forefront of everything. So everything was in order to just make sure that they would be the first one.
Yeah. And, talked of an empire there, but you've certainly built up a portfolio that gives you that freedom, that lifestyle now, and, that cash flow income that so many people are looking for, that recurring income stream. So, more recently, we've obviously just been through the COVID period. How did that impact you and again, shape your sustainable future?
Well, it was very interesting because it was thanks to COVID that I realized how important it was to actually tell the world about making things sustainable and making them right. It was in 2021 when the Greenland lady was actually born. I looked at, yes, I was successful. Yes, I was making money. Yes, I was doing everything. But the property world had lost the soul. And I wanted to do something that it was more meaningful. I wanted to do something that it really made a change and made a difference on people's lives. And then that's when I realized and I decided, actually, I need to come out and talk about this.
Yeah. And you've got, you're building your brand now. So anyone can go and watch your videos on YouTube and, hear, as you say, speak about this with great passion. But you're working with investors, right? So on a day-to-day basis, week to week, you're working with investors. Tell us a little bit about the work and, how are you finding properties and how are you then kind of stripping them back and making those really nice new properties for people to live in?
Yeah, I think it's important when you are working with investors, it's important that you find people that is aligned with your values. So the majority of the people that I work with, they want to do things the right way. So it's very easy to attract investors when you are talking about doing things right from the very beginning, doing it in a sustainable way. So it's helping the planet. So that's for first. I do a lot of networking as any other investor would do, but I also get a lot of people from word of mouth because they've worked with me, someone has worked with me and they've been recommended me. Now, when it comes to choosing my trades, I am very careful yet again, not to find a builder that just thinks that, well, things are always done this way. Well, no, not really, but I need you to change with me. So I'm working with an amazing team of people that actually have the same values and share the values of actually that wanting to do things well. So we try to, yes, we rip everything back to brick, and then we start from the very, very skeleton of the house, and then we build it back in. Yeah, so I'm working with people that is really keen on actually do things the right way, and they are very open-minded. When I say to them, we need to minimize waste, we need to, just to give you a little statistics so that you understand, cement and the building construction, it represents basically the biggest carbon emissions. If you read any of the books that are out there, they're talking about 31% of the carbon emissions comes from actually just from the construction industry. When you think that transport is only 11%, then that gives you a massive perspective as to how bad we are in the industry. So it's not all about making brand new houses, which is very easy to make a brand new house sustainable and eco. It's actually retrofitting the legacy that we have. And that's where the big issues are. Because in the UK, the majority of Victorian houses, period houses, they are very, very hard to just bring them back to carbon neutral. And that's where the majority of our efforts must be put into, just to make sure that all these beautiful houses are actually also sustainable and as much as possible, really.
Yeah. So that's probably a good point for us to kind of start going through and thinking, okay, well, what are some of those first few things that someone who listening right now who's maybe got some buy-to-lets or even HMOs and heat loss surveys? Let's start there, shall we? So what would that involve?
Well, a heat loss survey just means that someone which is more specialized with domestic energy SSAS is high up on that system anyway. They will come to your house and they will just do a full and very, very thorough survey. And this could be like 3, 4, 5 hours. I remember in my own home, it was like 12 hours. And I thought it was a bit of a joke at the beginning. I thought, 12 hours, what you doing? And they measure every single window, every single room, every single crummy space that you have, because they want to assess where your house is actually being efficient or non-efficient. So if we have a lot of losses, if you need insulation in your windows, if you don't have insulation on your floors, it will all be picked up. And then from there on, they will give you recommendations as to what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And we're familiar with EPCs, for someone maybe not a property owner, but we're talking here about people renting property as well, right? When they're looking at properties and they're looking at the EPCs, what information should they be taking from that?
As a tenant, the higher the EPC, the lower your bills. It's as simple as that. As an owner, the higher your EPC, the better mortgages you're going to end up having. As a owner who doesn't give a shit, the lower your EPC, then obviously the worse your tenants, you are endangering your tenants to actually end up having problems like asthma. You're putting your tenants at risk of health issues. You're putting at risk your tenants for many ways. And also, obviously, you are not you're letting your property become an albatross around your neck as opposite to an investment.
Yeah. Okay. So heat loss survey definitely should be one of the first things to consider. Then what about draft proofing, windows, doors, all of these things?
Yeah, this will be, I mean, even before you do a full heat loss survey, you can do things like that. You can just go around your house and whatever you feel a little bit of a draft, just make sure that you have window drafting put in. You can go, I mean, one of the very, very simple things is just, as I said, is just go around your house on a windy day and then just put your hand around the windows, and then you will see if there's any wind or any air coming in and out. Now, it is important that the buildings are ventilated. So it's not about just making sure that it's all airtight, because that air needs to be refreshing and, that air needs to be moving along. So, making sure that trickle vents are open, making sure that you open your windows, even in winter, just 10 minutes a day, just to refresh that quality of the air inside your home is extremely important. I cannot emphasize, especially on HMOs and co-living spaces, it's so important that they open that window 10 minutes. Just every window in the house, 10 minutes, just 10 minutes open every day. And then the amount of mold that you would get will just suddenly decrease. And you have to understand this, because in HMOs or co-living spaces, people are constantly living in those spaces. In HMOs, people live inside their home. They hang their clothes against the home in the bedrooms. They just do everything inside. They eat inside the bedrooms. They do everything inside the bedrooms, which means that it's not only the heat that you give out, but it's also the heating, the clothes, the cooking, everything. And that just increases the humidity inside. And if you have great windows which don't let anything out, that's fine. But then you're gonna create mold straight away if you don't air that bedroom on a regular basis. Yeah. On co-living spaces, where the idea is for people to actually just be more inside, people is encouraged to actually socialize in the living areas, in the communal areas, then this is still applicable. Because people complain about mold, but it's as simple as, install a dryer in your house. But obviously dryers are not very heat efficient. They're not very sustainable, are they? Mm-hmm. The idea is just to hang your clothes. Just go back to the grandma's all day where you just put your clothes outside. But people don't do that. So there is a balance. And that's why I say, I'm not asking everybody to take a holistic vision of what ideally should be done, but obviously adapt it to your own needs as an investor, and then make sure that you provide those facilities for your tenants. So if you see that your tenants are getting a lot of mold, well, perhaps you should install a dryer.
Okay, and then let's talk about heating. Obviously, this is a major area. So looking at your existing heating, what are some simple things that anybody can do straight away?
Some of the simplest things that you can do when it comes to heating is, for instance, if you live in a Victorian house, there is 8 pounds sheets that you just put behind the radiators, and literally you just hang them off the radiators. And what happened is that suddenly your radiator is not heating up the wall. Suddenly the radiator is actually being reflected on those sheets, and then the heat goes back inside. That's 8 pounds. I'm sure 8 pounds are very, very easy to spend, isn't it? So that's not a bad thing to do. But all sorts of things. I mean, infrared heating, for instance, is the cheapest way of actually heating houses. But on the EPC, it's really bad regarded. So people are not doing. But yet there are examples out there of whole villages for removing people from energy poverty because of infrared heating. So, there's loads of things that can be done, but the EPC might not recognize it. So you're trying to fight a system that is broken straight away.
Yeah. No, I like those reflective sheets, and I guess just bleeding the radiators, things like that as well regularly.
Exactly. Just make sure that you bleed the radiators on an annual basis. Just make sure that you put the right cooling inside. There is a cooling coming up on the market. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to tell you the name of the brand, but there's a cooling that if you actually put that cooling liquid inside your radiators, the effectiveness of those radiators just suddenly gets increased by 40%.
Wow.
And so it's huge. It's huge, making sure that, exactly in terms of energy, making sure that your windows are as tight as possible, that you don't have energy, that you have insulation. I mean, you're talking about energy efficiency, but, if you don't have the right insulation, then that's a super cheap way of actually getting your money back.
Yeah. And where does underfloor heating fit into a sustainable property?
Well, when you are looking at when you are prepared and you are ready you have a super tight, airtight house, then you look into starting to put air source heat pumps or ground source heat pumps, which would be the ideal scenario. Now, ground source heat pumps are very restrictive in terms of where you can put them because of the boreholes, the distance that needs to be from. It becomes very technical, Christian, as to when you can have it or not. But the ideal scenario is you have one of these air source heat pumps or ground source heat pumps, and then you have you get installed underfloor heating, as long as the floor has been insulated, obviously. Otherwise, you're just insulating the floor itself. But and the idea is to have a constant heating of the house as opposed to just having peaks up and down. So it works best, and the floor heating works best when it's just set at a low temperature and it's just left there on a constant basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's some of the things inside the property. What about outside of the property? What are some areas, quick fixes that people can look at?
Well, again, just clearing your gutters, making sure that you have all your vents are clean. And this is something that all your air vents, especially on Victorian houses and period houses, you will have air breaks. And people tend to think, oh, this is old stuff that doesn't need to be here. So they tend to either break over or just not clean it. And it's kind of like, why would you do that? The house needs to breathe. So making sure that all those areas are actually clean, making sure that that any windows are repaired externally as well. And if you go on the floor, if you want to go on the ceiling, I would recommend to absolutely every single person in the world, just put yourself a solar system. Just put PV on your roofs. It's not expensive. It's very, very cheap. And okay, you don't get paid a lot from the government, but you do get paid a little bit to just export some of that excess electricity. So you don't have to have a battery. I'm not a big fan of batteries. So just put your solar system, use whatever you use, and then just let it go. Yeah.
I've heard you talk before about this being one of the best sort of returns on your money, and some of our members as well have installed it and, seen absolutely fantastic returns within just a few years. So
12%. Where do you get 12% on your money? Hello. Definitely not on Santander or any of the high street banks.
So solar panels, absolutely. And as you say, technology is changing. Things are very different now than perhaps they were 5 years ago, right? So people should go out there, do their research and see what's available.
Exactly. The technology that we are going to use, they're talking, the government has big targets, reducing to carbon zero by 2050. All of this, they need to have green electricity. They think the green electricity, I was having talks with Nottingham University just a few weeks ago, and they were very, very positive that we will achieve green electricity by 2035, which would be amazing to do so. So although people see electricity as a bad thing, it's actually I also believe that it's one of the main things that is going to get us to that carbon zero. Because yes, all the heat pumps, all the computers, everything needs electricity. But as long as you are providing your own, you have your own system on your roof and you are providing enough. And if you have big fields, then you can have a system that actually just like a mini solar farm to just make sure that you cover yourself completely. And then, so if there is a massive demand for electricity, but it is also a massive push from the government to actually just make us all mini farms, mini solar farms in our own roofs. And it is definitely the best money that you will spend for a long time.
Yeah. So I guess just kind of wrapping all of that up together, Raquel, hopefully today we've helped anyone listening now who's in property, who's an investor, who's looking at this long term to see that there are real benefits here in cost savings, but also just creating nicer environments for their tenants. And their tenants are going to stay there for longer, right? So that means less headaches, less voids.
Absolutely. I mean, let me give you some numbers for you, for instance, so that you can understand the benefits. For instance, my houses tend to be the most expensive houses in the street. Wherever we go, they're the most expensive. In my area of interest, a 3-bedroom house just normally rents for about anything between £1,000 to £1,200. My houses are actually being rented out at £1,600. That's £400 straight away more than anyone else. Why? Are my tenants educated? Yes, of course they are educated. They know that the bills are going to be a lot cheaper. So they're saving not only on bills, but also they are saving in long-term health qualities. And also for anyone out there that said, I miss the renewable heat incentive. I truly do. Because a system worth £27,000, it only cost me £1,500 because of the 7-year return on the money. So we want that system back. We want to be able to do that. But even without that system in place, you can still, as a business, you can apply for grants. The government is really in favor of sustainability. It's hot topic. Just talk to us, talk to people who is in the field, and you will know how to improve your houses. You don't have to spend lots of money. You just need to spend the money in the right places. That's all.
Yeah. So Raquel, for someone listening now who really has got the bug, they want to start making some changes, how can they connect with you and find out more and contact you if they'd like to speak to you further?
Well, Christian, I'm always online, so they can always find me in Instagram is normally the best place to get me on. But you can also get me on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can send me a private message to Raquel@thegreenlandlady.com, and then I will join you onto a monthly webinars where you can learn a little bit more about what can you do and how you can do it. And if you just put on the subject wealth talk, then I'll know that they're coming from you, and I know that they are really interested on actually joining us. Joining the revolution.
Special attention. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, thanks for doing all the great work that you do, Raquel, and for sharing with us today on Wealth Talk.
Thank you ever so much for your time, Christian. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Okay, so a thank you to Raquel there for sharing wonderful insights. Before you and I dive into that a bit deeper, Kevin, let's head to Trustpilot and see who's left us a lovely review this week. And I'm looking at one from Patrick. Patrick says, having followed Kevin Whelan and team since 2018, I finally took action in 2021 to create my wealth building super compounding vehicle, which is the SSAS. And the guidance and training I have received was best in class, efficient and comprehensive. I have to highlight my SSAS mentor, Brian Harvey, for being a fantastic guide and soundboard to my ideas and questions. Standing on the shoulders of giants and connecting with an organisation that carries such a strong ethos on supporting mentees succeed has been life-changing.
I'm going to pause for thought there.
Wow. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. Shoulders of giants. Does he know I'm only 5'8"? It's good fun, though. And it's good to know. And you know what's interesting to me about that review more than anything else? Been following us since 2018. And took action in 2021. Nothing wrong with that. I don't mind if people follow us and then try and get into our ethos, try and get into our values. And talking about values, Raquel.
Absolutely.
All about values, right? Long-term, sustainability, creating a set of values for herself, a set of values for her tenants, a set of values for investors. She lives her life through a set of values. And I can only applaud her for that.
Yeah. So picking up on that long term, and this really ties into the whole wealth building mindset, isn't it? That this is not a quick fix. And Raquel was saying often the misconception is it's going to cost a lot of money. Am I really going to see a return? But things are changing. Technology is moving quickly. It's not as expensive now to install some of these really smart ideas into your home. And it's about thinking long term. So thinking long term in terms of, your profits, but also that relationship again with your tenants. Because if it's a nice home and they'll stay there longer, you'll have less voids, all ties in.
Profits, planet, people.
Yeah. Well, that's her tagline, absolutely. Yeah. And, no wonder she's really forging away now as the green landlady. What else? Yeah, I think return on impact was something you wanted to pick up on, Kevin.
Yeah, I think, we talk about ROIs a lot. One of those being return on investment. But when you're an investor, and she talked about working with investors as well, one of the great things, the most powerful things you can do to attract investors is to show them that you're doing good business, and business that's good for something else. She's doing green, sustainable business, which means if that has an impact and you share that value, you're more likely to then want to follow her, more likely to want to interact with her, to invest with her, to build a relationship with her. And I think that's smart. And it also means that everybody who is in her ecosystem is sharing those same values. And, I think that's a great thing to do. And look, the world's changing inexorably. It won't be too long before you can't have any new builds at all with gas boilers. That's all changing. And there's so many more ways that you can make a home, particularly if you're a landlord, more cost effective. You can use solar panels. You can use reflective infrared. In fact, some of our Wealth Builder clients, Chris, have got homes where there's no radiators at all because you don't need it. Because if you can build infrared into your walls and into your floors, you can get a fantastic source of heat, which takes up zero space, which means you've got more room for people to enjoy the space. And also you can control the lighting, you can control the heating, you can control everything through apps. So it means you can keep the home safe, sound, secure, all and everything to do with EPCs and all the hints and tips that she gave, you can do now. But if you're looking to convert things, and so many of our property students are moving from commercial to residential, where they're converting property, which is probably old, built in the decades ago, in some cases even 100 years ago, and they can convert those into new style properties. They can make them enormously beneficial, not just for themselves, not just for the tenants, but good for society as well.
And I know education is really important for Raquel as well. And it's the first step in the Wheel of Wealth that we teach, obviously, inside our academy program. And it was way back in episode 9, actually, when we covered the Wheel of Wealth, Kevin. So for anyone listening now, maybe wasn't with us right at the beginning, do check back episode 9. We'll put a link to that in today's show notes. We'll talk through what that Wheel of Wealth involves and why it's so important. But education is always the beginning point there. And we see so many of our members and clients, Kevin, that are on that property journey, and after a few years, they turn the wheel a few times. They really know what they're doing. They've built that momentum and they naturally want to start giving back. And we see that all the time. And I think that's the case with Raquel as well. And if you can find your niche and just stand out, because, there's a lot of competition out there, just really crafting your story. And again, that's something that we help our members with, isn't it? And that's a different kind of IP then they're creating, another pillar.
That's another pillar. And it's also return on IP. So it's another return. It's return on intellect. It's the return on the, not just you sharing that knowledge, but also you're building your own knowledge, which you can then repackage, repurpose, and turn it into books, courses, materials, all sorts of different ways. It's a very powerful way. Once you've decided, and we talk about this in business as well, you have to be very clear on your niche, become outstanding in your niche, make the business work without you. She's not there doing the work. The work's being done by carefully and tastefully crafting properties that will be long-term sustainable. So I think it's a great episode, Chris.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get some good feedback, and then perhaps we can continue on the green theme over coming weeks and invite some other guests to
I'll reach into my caverns, not the sherry caverns, but into my intellectual caverns and see if I can pull one out for somebody who's done something that I think is impactful as well, both green, sustainable, or environmentally friendly. And we'll invite them to guest as well. So, and if you're out there, by the way, and you've done something like that, then let us know and we can invite you to become a guest as well at some point in the future.
Absolutely. And a final reminder, if you'd like to join us inside Wealth Builders training, our academy program, then self-study program is out today. And we're running a discount for the next few days. So if you're listening around the release of this episode, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/self-study and go and check it out.
Yeah, so looking forward to working with more new members and helping them grow their wealth in the fastest, safest, most enjoyable way possible, Chris. So thanks for a good episode today.
No worries. Okay, we'll catch up same time, same place next week.
Hasta luego.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.